Good evening and welcome. My name is Laura Milner and I am the Chair of Voter Services for the Kittitas County League of Women Voters. It's my pleasure tonight to welcome you on behalf of the League, as well as the Ellensburg Daily Record, the Northern Kittitas County Tribune, the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce, and the Associated Students of Central Washington University to the Upper County District Court Judge Candidate Forum. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the League's production and post-production crew, Charlie Sorensen, Karen Raymond, and Dolores Irwin, for making this event possible. Kittitas County League, a nonprofit in existence for over 50 years, has presented Candidates Night to help educate county voters since 1980. We are a nonpartisan grassroots organization that never supports or opposes individual candidates or political parties. Our goal in hosting these events is to educate voters about candidates and their positions as they stand for election, because informed voters do make a difference. The League of Women Voters records and retains a full, unedited copy of all candidates' forms. If any portion of the League form is redistributed out of context to make a candidate appear to say something they did not say, or edited to make a candidate look bad, or in any way that they did not actually look at the original form, then the League of Women Voters will alert the media, provide the unedited video for comparison, and file appropriate complaints with any applicable governing authority. Tonight's forum will focus on candidates running for the Upper County District Court Judgeship. The practice for the Kittitas League is to hold candidate forums as follows. Every candidate running in a contested election for any particular position is invited to participate in a League of Women Voters candidate forum. They're contacted via email and, if necessary, certified mail delivery. We vigorously pursue candidates, confirm their availability, source questions from the community, promote the event, and stage the event. If both candidates agree to participate but only one candidate shows, that candidate will be allowed to make a 2-minute statement. No surrogates will be permitted to read statements or appear on behalf of a candidate. Be aware that the League takes candidates and forums quite seriously. Local, state, and national league rules dictate that candidates for each position must be at the candidate event. Otherwise, it can appear partisan. When we have unresponsive candidates, the community, the voter, and our democracy loses. The two candidates that are running for the Upper County Court Judgeship and have graciously agreed to appear here tonight are Craig Juris, and Eileen Murphy Young. As we begin, I want to note that our ballots will be mailed October 18th. That would be today. Please call the auditor's office if you don't receive yours in a timely manner after today. You still have time to register or change your address. You can do so online until October 31st and in person at the auditor's office or CWU's Engagement Hub by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, November the 8th. Your ballot must be postmarked on or before November the 8th by 8 p.m. and be aware that local post offices have varying closing times, so mailing by October 26th is probably a voter's best bet. There are also 9 ballot drop boxes throughout Kittitas County. If you are unsure where yours is, do check the auditor's office website for the complete list. In addition to the live stream event, the recording will be on the Kittitas League YouTube channel with links found at kittitasleague.org. We thank the following media partners for also sharing these forums: ECTV, Spectrum Channel 191, Ellensburg Daily Record, and Northern Kittitas County Tribune. We have discussed the ground rules for the forum with the candidates prior to today's event. My job is to keep us on time and on task, which means that if a candidate goes past their time, I will move us along. The candidates have the opportunity to make a 2-minute opening statement. Then we will ask 5 prepared questions that we source from the community. We provided these questions to the candidates a few hours ago, and they will have 60 to 90 seconds, depending on the question complexity, to respond to each question. Then we will move to up to 3 live stream audience questions, depending on time availability. The candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to each of these questions. The forum will conclude with a 60-second closing statement by each candidate. Should an opponent wish to rebut the response, they must signal they wish to do so. Once recognized, they will have 30 seconds. Only one rebuttal per question will be permitted. We will rotate the order that the questions are asked, so no one candidate must always answer first. And if I make an error in this regard, I expect the candidates to let me know. If you're viewing this live, you can submit a question by texting to 509-654-9030. The questions must be for all candidates. The league members will review the questions. We may combine or edit them for clarity, nonpartisanship, and time limitations. Our nonpartisan general voters guide has gone live on our kittitasleague.org website. The guide includes links to the candidates' campaign websites if provided, financial filings, completed candidates, League of Women Voters questionnaires, and more. We urge you to check it out and share with other voters. At this point, we would like to welcome the candidates, Craig Juris and Eileen Murphy-Young, to this forum. Thank you both for taking the time to be with us, and thank you for your willingness to serve our community as a judge. As we discussed earlier, I will alternate who answers first, but we start with how the candidates appear on the ballot. So, Mr. Juris, we start with you. You have 2 minutes to make your opening statement.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you to the League of Women Voters and all of the other sponsors for providing this opportunity. The position of Upper County District Court Judge is an important one in our judicial system in general, but especially for the people and the citizens of the Upper County. This is an area that is extremely unique in its personality and in its population. It's extremely fluid and ever-changing in the nature of the people that are coming in. It's important that the person who has this position is someone who is familiar with the area, who understands the citizens of this region, along with having the required legal background and skills and abilities to hold this position. I am a 4th-generation resident of the Upper County. This county is something I hold very dear, and the protection of the citizens and their rights of this area is something that is extremely important to me. I believe in our judicial system. I believe in the ability for it to make this a better place for everyone. And I think that having a judge that understands what is necessary to make those things happen is extremely important. I have over 20 years, 21 and a half years actually, experience as an attorney. I've spent it in various places around the state, learning from different judges and different court programs on what works, what doesn't work. I will bring that knowledge and that experience with me to the bench. I will do everything in my ability to make everything fair, impartial, neutral, and just for the citizens of the Upper County. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Young, you have 2 minutes to make your opening statement.
Thank you. My name is Eileen Murphy-Young, and I am running for the position of Upper Kittitas District Court Judge. I came to this county in the 1980s. I was a student at Central Washington University, where I received my degree in psychology. I subsequently attended Seattle University, where I received my law degree. I came right back to this county then to start my legal career. I started in the prosecutor's office before I had even known if I'd passed the bar yet, as a deputy prosecutor and a deputy coroner. My job duties were to be the prosecutor for the Upper Kittitas District Court and the Lower Kittitas District Court. I did that for a number of years before deciding to go out on my own and start my own private practice. When I started my private practice, I still concentrated on the district court aspect of our community, still practicing in Upper District Court and Lower District Court. That's always been my main focus, even though I've practiced in all courts in this county. About 17 years ago, I was asked to start becoming a judge pro tem, specifically in the Upper Kittitas District Court. A judge pro tem is where a judge who may not be available to hear cases because he is recused on the cases or is on vacation or sick cannot perform the duties as a judge on that case. And so I would step in and fulfill the role as the presiding judge. It's been something I have been doing for the last 17 years. I have presided over every type of case that can be heard in the district court up in Upper Kittitas County, from civil jury trials, civil criminal trial, or criminal trials, jury trials, small claims, anti-harassment orders, anything you can think about that you have in a district court hearing, I have done so. I continue to do that based upon my record as far as what I have done as a judge in that court. I am well respected for that, and I'm asking that the citizens of Upper Kittitas County use my proven record and vote for me to be the next elected Upper District Court judge.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Young, you get the first question. You get 60 seconds.
Okay.
Please define the duties of a district court judge and how you best meet those requirements.
Okay, so a district court is a court of limited jurisdiction. That means that you're only dealing with cases, certain civil types of cases, and then misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors as far as criminal cases. The duty of a judge, duty of district court is to resolve and adjudicate infractions, criminal traffic, non-traffic, small claims, anti-harassment orders, here we go, and name changes. Whoop, I lost the light there. The judge's role is to decide the facts, apply the law, and make a ruling. The goal is an independent, fair, and competent judge who interprets the laws that govern our community. I've done that for the last 17 years. I have the experience. I know how to meet these requirements. I have done so, and done so to the point where I am asked to consistently come back and do so and perform in this role.
Thank you. Mr. Juris, repeating the question for you. Please define the duties of a district court judge and how you best meet those requirements. You have 60 seconds.
As Ms. Murphy-Young stated, there are a lot of duties. Some of those I want to highlight are conducting criminal and civil court hearings, including trials, making rulings on contested issues of law or fact, overseeing court staff and budgets for the court, and most importantly, upholding the rights of all those involved in the court process. I've got 21 years experience in the court system. As I mentioned before, I've participated in countless cases requiring me to review matters for probable cause, for search warrants, for arrest warrants, and requiring me to do that in a neutral and unbiased manner. That is a role as a deputy prosecutor I've filled that by law has the same or virtually the same standard as a judge. I believe that my experience as a manager in other offices, including going over budgets, is also very important. I know how to do all these things, and I will continue to do them to the best of my ability as the next judge.
Thank you. All right, question number 2. We're going to begin with you, Mr. Juris. You will have 60 seconds. And the question is, what alternatives exist to cash bail bonds and how well might they work?
That's a tough question because as a practical matter, the only real alternatives to cash bail bonds are either not imposing bail on an individual or at all, or having the person under supervised release conditions supervised by the probation status. The reality is that Washington law requires a presumption that a person be released prior their trial. In district court especially, that happens in the vast majority of cases. The issue is with cases where there's a history of non-appearance or a fear of non-appearance or a risk or threat to the safety of the community. And in those cases, bail may very well be important. The court can help and assist people by making it a situation where there are alternatives to them, but ultimately it is their own responsibility to follow those rules. So how they will work is all dependent upon the individual and how well they take those responsibilities into account.
Thank you. Ms. Young, you have 60 seconds to answer the question. What alternatives exist to cash bail bonds and how well might they work?
Well, Mr. Juris is correct in that a large portion of district court defendants are released on what we call pretrial monitoring. So released from jail without having to post bail, but are placed on pretrial monitoring. And that's going to depend upon whether or not that person is considered a risk to the community, what is their past history of appearing in court, what concerns the court might have to make sure that that defendant then reappears and continues to appear during the court process. Some of the alternatives that I know our courts are using at this point in time as a alternative to cash or a purchase bail bonds can be, besides monitoring by the probation office, can be a scram or a alcohol monitor, a sober link, if the concern is whether that person's going to continue to possess alcohol ignition interlock device if we want to make sure someone is driving without having consumed alcohol. So it's a tricky type of situation because you have to balance the need for public safety versus the need for someone to be able to be out and handle their court cases as easily as possible as they can without being incarcerated.
Thank you. All right. So question number 3, and Ms. Young, you will start this round and you'll have 90 seconds. What innovative, and this one is a complex, convoluted question. All right. What innovative and efficient procedures would you consider putting into place to cut down referrals to probation services, reduce imposing jail time as a sanction, substitute out of custody sanctions and supervision that is affordable and practical?
Okay. Well, that is a complex question because first of all, someone is only placed on probation, active probation, if the conditions that they have as their part of their sentencing are active conditions. So if somebody has to have an evaluation, be it an alcohol drug evaluation, a domestic violence evaluation, mental health evaluation, then probation does have to be actively monitored. So probation can make sure that that person is in compliance with their treatment recommendations and can let the court know that that person is maintaining compliance and doing what the court is asking them to do. So a lot of cases in the district court level, if they're not having those active components, are what we call unsupervised probation. That means they don't have to check in with the probation officer. They just know that they have to maintain good and lawful behavior. It's a tough balancing act because, as I said, you want to make sure that people are not a risk to the community. So you want to have them on these conditions, but you also want to make sure that their rights are protected before they are actually either found guilty or go through the court process. Out of custody sanctions that are affordable and practical are very difficult right now. One of the issues with the upper counties, we don't have a lot of those resources up there. That's something that I would make a big push towards getting up there. But treatment, the behavioral health court is another issue we'll talk about later. Those are high risk, high need people. Those are ways in which we can help to reduce imposing jail time and not necessarily use the probation office.
Thank you. Mr. Juris, you will have 90 seconds to answer the question, and I'll repeat it. What innovative and efficient procedures would you consider putting into place to cut down referrals to probation services, reduce imposing jail time as a sanction, substitute out of custody sanctions and supervision that is affordable and practical?
The difficulty with this question has to do, in my opinion, with the fact that we do have limited resources, not only in the upper county, but the county as a whole, the state as a whole. In a perfect world, there would be a lot of different resources we could put into place. Reducing probation services is a difficult concept. As was stated, they only actively supervise people in certain situations, but those are extremely important situations to protect the community as a whole, the victims of the specific crime in instances of a domestic violence type offense, and to make sure that they get the help they need with treatment, with going to classes, with abiding by all the rules. Reducing jail time as a sanction or substituting out of custody sanctions is a case-by-case decision that can't be made as a blanket position. Those kind of things are hard to implement because it's hard to monetize the judicial system. We not only owe a duty to the defendants in a case to do what is fair and just by them, but we also owe a duty to the citizens of the county and the victims of the specific crimes to protect their rights and ensure that we, in the best way we can, reduce recidivism of these people. And unfortunately, sometimes that does mean incarceration with no alternative.
Thank you. All right, question number 4. Mr. Juris, we will begin with you, and you have 60 seconds to respond. In what situations would alternative sentencing, such as referrals to community resources, be appropriate? What community resources are available in the upper court district, and additional resources do you wish were available?
So I'm going to take these in reverse order. What we have available right now, especially for the district court level, is a behavioral health court that's been referenced. People with needs to go into that to help monitor mental health issues, which is something, unfortunately, we see a lot in the criminal realm, or people with substance abuse issues can go into that program and go into the treatment and hopefully get the help they need. So we don't have to see them again and again in the court system, which has been a problem in the past. I'd love to see something broaden that. I'd love to see perhaps at some point a district court level domestic violence court, which when I was with Thurston County, I worked with trying to get one of those up and running, but was unsuccessful, unfortunately, at the time in doing. The resources are slim. We have to make do with what we have. And we just have to work with the ability we have without making it unfair for anyone.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Young, you too will have 60 seconds to answer the question. In what situations would alternative sentencing, such as referral to community resources, be appropriate? What community resources are available in the Upper Court District, and additional resources that you wish were available?
Well, thank you. As Mr. Jura said, we don't have a lot of resources, not only in the county, but especially up in Upper County. We used to have satellite offices of mental health and substance use treatment programs. We don't really have those anymore. We do have Hope Source, which can be useful in a lot of circumstances if we're talking about trying to make individuals whole and healthy. So that's a resource we can use, but we don't have a lot. And we definitely have to make sure that we are only using them when a person is not a risk to the community. Behavioral health court is a huge thing that Upper County is now a part of. That is when you have people who have high risks and high needs, and you're seeing them in court a lot, and you use outside resources, volunteers from the court who come together weekly to have these people meet, have them do treatment, have them get services, with the hope being that we can create a whole new individual who has the help and the resources they need to not continue to be a drain on the court system. That's a big one we're using in Upper County, and we'll continue to do so.
Thank you so much. All right, question number 5. Ms. Young, will begin with you for 60 seconds. Please describe your firsthand experience, if any, dealing with people who are different from you socially, economically, or politically.
Okay, well, for the last 20 years in my private practice, I deal with a lot of public defense contracts. Because of my background in community mental health, as well as my psychology degree, I tend to get a lot of the more difficult client cases, people who have significant mental health issues, people who have developmental disabilities. You're dealing oftentimes with people who are maybe not the people you want to have to sit next to and be face to face with because of their difficulties, because of their lack of social skills and abilities and resources. And so you have to be able to put your feelings aside, show compassion, be very patient. You want to make sure that regardless of who you're dealing with, and regardless if you agree or believe in anything they say or do, or even like them, are getting a fair and just process through the legal system. Again, not always easy to do, and it's something that I deal with on a daily basis and use my experience to make sure I provide to my clients.
Thank you. Mr. Juris, you have 60 seconds to answer. Please describe your firsthand experience, if any, dealing with people who are different from you socially, economically, or politically.
While I may have grown up in the Upper County, I went to college at the University of Washington in Seattle. I went to law school in the state of Michigan. I worked as an intern in San Diego. I've worked in various counties around this state. I've lived, worked, and interacted with people of all different types of backgrounds, socioeconomic, political, racial, ethnic, you name it. They're people I've interacted with over the course of my lifetime. And in my career, I work, as Ms. Murphy-Young said, work with those type of people almost every day. Not just defendants come from that pool, but witnesses do, victims do, law enforcement officers do, jurors do. There are people that we see daily, we work with daily. The key is not focusing on the differences you have with those people. The key is recognizing there may be differences, looking past those differences, and making sure a fair and just outcome comes about regardless of those differences.
Thank you. All right, so we have been collecting questions from our YouTube audience. I want to remind you that we have time for only up to 3 questions. Our volunteers may have combined or reworded the questions to maintain nonpartisanship or for clarity. If we did not get to your question, remember that you can always reach out to the candidates themselves via email and ask them directly. So, Mr. Juris, we're going to begin with you for a question. You have 90 seconds. And the question is, what do you believe are the causes of high rates of minority incarceration?
That is an extremely difficult question to answer. And frankly, if we had a good answer for that, it's something that would have been addressed already, and perhaps we could have had some resolution to. It is slightly skewed here in Kittitas County, especially the upper Kittitas County, because we do not have a lot, unfortunately, of those differences that we deal with. I think a lot of them that I've seen while working in other places are based primarily on socioeconomic backgrounds. People who are in a more precarious economic situation have less hope in a lot of cases. They turn to things like drugs, which in turn lead to things like crime, or they turn to those out of necessity for whatever reason. Those are situations that the court needs to recognize when those are part of what the basis is, not only what the minority or other background is of the person involved, but the reason behind why we got to where we are and seeing the person in the court, regardless of those situations. Once those are recognized, they can be addressed and hopefully successfully, and we can move on from there. It's something that people individually have to recognize in themselves and in their society, noticing those differences, and then move past those to get a better production from the court system.
Thank you. Ms. Young, same question, 90 seconds. What do you believe are the causes of high rates of minority incarceration?
Well, it is true that in the upper county, we don't have a large differential as far as the population. I think what you will find is this occurs more in cities of larger populations. And oftentimes you are looking at socioeconomic backgrounds and difficulties where people have come from. You will find, in a bigger city, you've got a lot more court, you've got a lot more of this grind of cases going through the court where judges have huge busy dockets and they may not have time to take a look at each individual person and the reasonings behind why did this crime happen, what was the reasons behind it, what can we do to try and change this person's life so that they don't continue to be part of the system as a whole. I think one of the benefits that we have in the Upper Kittitas District Court is we are a smaller court. And so the opportunity to take the time to take each case individually, regardless of a person's background, understand why they're before the court, what are the reasons this event occurred, what would be the best resolution, not only for that person to be held accountable, but also for the community to be a safe place, is something we would have the luxury of being able to take the time to do. I think when you're talking about mass rates of incarceration of minorities, you're looking at bigger systems that have a lot of problems that need to be fixed. I think it's something that in Upper County, we can take a closer look at each case and be open and fair to everybody.
Thank you. All right, so you're going to get the next question for 90 seconds. What impact do you see mental illness playing out in a district court?
Well, district court, because of the limited nature of district court, and we are dealing with misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors, what we have experienced is that it seems even more lately that there's a huge percentage of the population we're dealing with. They end up coming to court for minor things, for trespassing, for being in places they're not supposed to be, small thefts. And when they come to court, we find out that a lot of the issues that they're dealing with are mental health issues. And they're not small crimes, they're not big crimes, they're more the small petty crimes. And they're people that get noticed quite regularly by law enforcement because they're in the community. They don't oftentimes have other places they can be and resources they can use. And so it is I find in my 20-some years of experience that mental health treatment and resources and recognizing the issues of mental health in our defendants is a much bigger theme than it had been in the past. Again, one of our new creations is the Behavioral Health Court. It's the first time in this county we've had a court based upon a person who has mental health issues. We are allowed then to take them, make sure that they are getting the treatment that they need, with the idea being that they get that help and that assistance, and they no longer commit crimes or no longer are a part of that system. But it is something that's on the forefront more often than I have seen in the past.
Thank you. Mr. Juris, same question. What impact do you see mental illness playing out in a district court? You have 90 seconds.
Whether it's district court, superior court, any other court, mental illness is a huge factor in a lot of the cases that are seen in the courtroom setting. In one of my previous positions, I worked quite a bit in Thurston County with the mental health court that was there. It was similar to the behavioral health court that we have now, less expansive because they had different types of courts for different needs. It was a real eye-opener to things that you didn't necessarily think were based in mental health issues actually are. We're not talking about DUIs, driving on a suspended license, thing like that we'll see in district court all the time. We are talking, as was said, trespassing, minor thefts, harassing behavior. Even domestic violence charges can have a background in mental health issues. The significant issue with that is getting to the root problem and finding what is the best way to address those. People with mental health problems, court should set up a situation for them for success, not for failure. Putting them in jail rarely is to their benefit. Helping them get to a place where they have their mental health situations under control is what is the most important. I have experience in doing that, and I want to continue to be able to do that.
Thank you. All right. So, Mr. Juris, we're going to begin with you for our last and final question. How does the Upper County District Court judge impact the day-to-day life of an Upper County resident? You have 90 seconds.
The impact on the day-to-day life of an Upper County resident depends upon the nature in which they're going to come in contact with the court. Obviously, if they're coming into court as having been charged with an offense, having gotten a speeding ticket, having been the victim of a crime, something of that nature, it's going to have an extreme direct impact upon the citizen and their direct family and friends. But as a whole, the position of the district court judge in the Upper County has an effect on the entire region because it sets the tone. It sets the tone for how we view our criminal justice system in this area. It is a representation of the people of the county, of the Upper County, on how they want to see these situations handled. It's a fine balancing act. It should be a mirror of the people who elect the judge and what they want to see as a result of the person they elected, while also helping to educate the community, set goals and standards for the community, for law enforcement, for prosecution, for defense, for victims, and shape the future and how the court is seen. When the court starts to be seen as a positive influence through the county or through the region, then it becomes more trusted, and that way the entire system works better.
Thank you. Ms. Young, same question, 90 seconds. How does the Upper County District Court judge impact the day-to-day life of an Upper County resident?
Well, having practiced in this same court for the last 23 years, one of the things you'll find is that a lot of people up in Upper County don't even necessarily know we have a separate district court up there. It's a small court. Doesn't mean it's anything less than any other district court. It's just small because of the nature of the population that it serves. And what I would like to see happen is, as judge, people understanding that there is a court up there, that we are a place that you can go and be treated fairly, be treated with respect, that we uphold the law as given to us, that the judge is someone seen in the community. Again, it's a small community, so you're going to be seen oftentimes out and about, and that is somebody that you can talk to, talk about things that are going on, express concerns about things that may be going on. I'd like to see the Upper Kittitas District Court be seen in a much bigger light, and much more important than I think it is currently seen. It does have an impact on the citizens up there. Having a court that everyone knows is a place where they can be seen and heard in a fair and just manner, I think that will broaden people's perspectives of what the Upper Kittitas District Court can do. And I think it's important to Upper County as a whole moving forward.
Thank you. Okay, we're to the closing statement portion of our evening. Ms. Young, you have 60 seconds to make your closing statement.
Okay. Thank you. I do appreciate the League of Women Voters and all the associated sponsors tonight for giving us this opportunity to let people know a little bit about us. You know, as I said a lot, but I said I've been here practicing my entire career. But because I'm limited in my practice as far as I've really been just basing myself in the district courts and the criminal side, not necessarily known to a lot of people unless you've been part of the court process. You know everybody in the court system. Everybody has encouraged me to run for this position, from law enforcement, from probation, from court staff, because they understand my experience, my knowledge of the local court system. They know that I am aware of things that need to change and things that are working well. You know, I'm an Upper County resident. I live there with my husband and my 3 dogs. We love the area. It's an utmost important to me that we make Upper County a priority going forward. And as your judge, I would do exactly that.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Juris, you have the last word. 60 seconds for your closing statement.
Thank you. I believe in our judicial system and the critical role it plays in our community. As a judge, I'll protect the rights of everyone that appears in court, as well as the citizenry as a whole of the Upper Kittitas County. I care about this community. I am born and raised here. I have the experience, the knowledge, and the breadth of information to make a positive impact in this position. I will treat everyone, including victims and defendants alike, with respect and the dignity that they deserve. This is our home. We all need to feel safe in it. The protection of the citizens of the Upper County and the preservation of their rights will be my foremost duty as a judge, and that is something I will fulfill with the most sincerity. I want to again thank the League of Women Voters and all of the other individuals. As was said, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to the candidates individually. We appreciate the time and the effort you took to put this on. Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to thank Mr. Juris and Ms. Young for sharing their views and their willingness to serve as Upper County Judge. We want to thank our co-sponsors, the Ellensburg Daily Record newspaper, the Northern Kittitas County Tribune, the Kittitas County Chamber of Commerce, and the Associated Students of Central Washington University for sharing the information about these forums and these forum videos throughout the voting season. Finally, thank you to the many league volunteers who make these events possible. To get more information about all candidates running in the 2022 general election, the Kittitas League has created a nonpartisan online voters guide where you will find links to candidates' websites and other helpful resources. You can also get information at vote411.org, the Kittitas County Auditor's Office, and at the Washington State Secretary of State's office. Remember to vote for the candidates that best represent your views. Every vote counts. Your vote matters. Join me by casting your vote, your ballot on the November 8th general election. Thank you and good